Cinefilos Transeuntes, un podcast de Pablo Rodríguez y Ezequiel Vigo. Good afternoon, everybody. We're back.
Good afternoon, wherever you
Your
are,
favorite host.
wherever we may be. But that's for discussion another day. Today
We've
we're
all
talking
changed
again.
our backgrounds as well.
Yeah,
We're all
we tried
moving
to.
around.
Yeah,
We don't know if it's across
Bouncing
the
around.
country or across to a different room.
yeah.
You'll
Maybe
never know.
just pointing to different corner in the room even. But you'll never know. Because
Yeah,
what we know.
Could be
Just
next
move the
door.
chair.
Could be next door. Could be in Bolivia. You'd never know.
Maybe
Yeah.
we're in the same room. Who knows?
Ooh.
That'd be the plot twist.
So,
Today,
episode 2. Very, very good stuff. Very, very good stuff.
Mhm.
Came out last night. We were quick and ready. We were like a fast gunslinger. We got right on it.
Nice and
And
quick.
we enjoyed it. What are the general opinions so far?
So far, so
Um,
good. Keeping true to what they were promising in the first episode, and I think that's good.
It's holding up. It's not running out of gas, it seems, because it's been like what we said in the last show. I think it's keeping that, but it's also like improving on the things we commented that I think were going to be important in order for the show to carry on like this. And I think I'm so hyped for the third episode because they just straight to the point. This episode, Infected, that's the name of the episode. I think it summarizes the episode perfectly. But I think it is also such an action-packed episode, even though they're not keeping up with that length of the first episode. It's 50 minutes, but I don't think a single second is too spur there. Everything's meaningful. At least that's what I found.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Action-packed.
Yeah, as you were right. You finished last week's podcast by saying that you thought that the first episode was a little bit longer, just so everyone could have a better idea of like the story. And I thought every
Yeah.
episode was going to be an hour and a half, an hour 20. Turned out to be 50-something minutes. So I was a little bit disappointed by that because I wanted every episode to be a movie in
No,
its
yeah,
own
that
way,
would
you
have
know?
been that would have been incredible.
Yeah,
But,
it would have
you
been a
know,
treat.
we can't have everything. We're getting a good adaptation. I mean, we can't complain over here. Everything
all.
about this episode was if anything better than what it was
Phenomenal.
in the first episode. It's built upon the real good feel of the show. I mean, it's continued to be very consistent in its representation of the game. And the characters are starting to become a little bit more personal. They're starting to add their little magical touches to the character. And you can see, you could definitely see it in Bella Ramsey's interpretation of Ellie. Her dialogue is
Yeah.
evolving like crazy. She's getting a lot more sarcastic. She's switching from that childlike self to that very adult, very inquisitive look that we love to see from Ellie. And as I expected, I'm growing into her as an Ellie. Like, well, she's
That being
grown
said,
and
though,
she's grown
that
on
being
me.
said, I do feel like while you do see her, becoming more sarcastic and stuff, you do also realize that she's just a kid and that she's taking a lot of what she's going to have to go through for granted. Like I remember at the end of the episode, it kind of just the camera pans out and it's just her, just with the burning building in the background, and you kind of see her in a sense of not only confusion but also like, oh shit, is about to get real. She also says she can't swim, showing that she just like has no experience outside of the confines of the QZ, the quarantine zone.
Yeah.
And then just also her not fully understanding when they first walk into the courtroom or into the building, whatever it was. She doesn't understand that you need to be quiet. She's like whispering, like stepping on things, showing like she's not really taking it as serious as she should be.
Well, and also
I'm kind of
like
glad
how
that they.
Go.
Yeah,
Finish.
sorry. You continue.
I think it's also like it's quite clear how she's faking to be confident most of the time, and I think it's really cool how we see those little moments. That moment in which she doesn't know how to swim, and she's like, "What do I do now?" And Joel's just like, "Step down, and you don't need to swim here." But she's paralyzed because she's like just so scared, and I think it's so funny that they just have that contrast with Joel, because we'll see what type of character Joel turns into if you haven't played the game, but I think it's gonna be like such a good chemistry between the two of them, because already in those little moments you see how there's so much Joe in the performance by Pedro Pascal, and I already see a lot of change in Ellie, especially in this second chapter, as you said.
On a lighter note, I'm kind of glad that they waited till after COVID to release the show, just because
Mm.
a lot of people are going to be able to relate to Ellie's lack of orientation and social skills after escaping from the QZ, or in people's cases, their nan's basement. They're
Yeah,
experiencing the same kind of disorientation and confusion.
Yeah.
They
yeah,
can't swim
especially
either.
nowadays that like you said during the pandemic and even the couple of years after. I'll call them quarantine kids just because they spent the formative years indoors, locked inside pretty much the whole time, and then when they finally get to go out, I'm sure everything must be as a bigger shock to them in real life as it is to Ellie finally being out and being like, oh, this isn't that bad. Like they told me it was going to be crazy out in the city, just because the first thing she had encountered was just an empty highway, you know.
Yeah.
So then when she finally gets attacked and she's like having to survive and shit gets real, that's when you kind of see the true development of a kid exposed to something that they're unfamiliar with.
It's
What did you
just
guys
like in any sort of emergency scenario, though. You depend a lot on word of mouth. So she thought that the whole place was overrun by zombies because that's what everyone must have been saying in the QZ. It's like, oh, you don't want to go outside. It's horrible. The zombies
Yeah.
everywhere.
It's horrible,
Like,
man. Everyone's dying.
this one
I mean,
schizophrenic
not a
guy
lie.
made it out and he came back with all these stories.
And what do you guys think
No,
of
but
the
it's-
cold open, for example? Because I liked how we get a bit more of context of the world in this chapter, but we also see how that plays out later when we see the sinkhole because of the bomb that they dropped in Boston, I think it was, or whatever city, and how
Yeah, Boston.
I like that thing they're doing. I hope they keep it in the next chapters. I mean, if it's not always the cold open, but they sort of have like that back and forth element. Because I think that's the most like interesting thing about the world. It's like what happened to it, because we're in the middle of it.
Yeah, because that's the biggest question that you have in the game. Because in the game, you're only really seeing Boston, and you're only really seeing wherever Joel is or wherever Ellie is. You're like, and what the fuck is going on in the rest of the world? Is everyone else fine? Is everyone else fucked?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think
If this
that's
is
actually
like
a
an
really
alien
good way that they
invasion.
started the episode. Because you know how I think they said it was Malaysia or Indonesia.
Indonesia.
In TV shows,
Indonesia,
you
Jakarta.
hardly ever see how certain pandemics or life experiences affect places outside of the place where the plot is taking place. So generally speaking, most good shows that I've watched are based in America, but they don't show you what the effects or what else is happening outside of America is like. So I think the fact that they called in a scientist, they said, hey, like we haven't seen this before, and then she ends that scene by saying, just bomb it, like you need to bomb everything.
I also
That
like
kind of
because
shows you like
It's
it's
terrifying.
it's a global catastrophe.
It
I
really
also
is.
like what we said before. You just mentioned that lightly about it's just after COVID, after this pandemic. But I like that in the show, when it's in Indonesia, they also show the SARS epidemic, which was back in, I think it's 2004, something like that. Because that shows that, especially in those countries, they were meant to be ready for COVID. So in this fiction world, they would have been hit by SARS epidemic, then the COVID epidemic, and still her first reaction is, yeah, just burn everything down. There's nothing. Don't let it go out of here. Which really translates.
Yeah, it's a terrifying moment when you call in the expert and the expert tells you that there's nothing you can do. You're like, no, but can't you fix this?
No, you just burn it with fire.
I'm sorry.
You just gotta set it
That's
on
the
fire.
equivalent of when
also-
you get the equivalent of
makes
when
you
you
think
call
as
the
well-
senior programmer and he doesn't know what to do either.
Yeah. it is.
Also,
And he's
I
like,
was
oh.
thinking about just like the whole scientist aspect and just trying to apply it to like real life scenarios. Before COVID, I find it weird that doctors weren't wearing masks after seeing every single patient. Like you would walk into the doctor's office, the guy's not wearing a mask, not wearing gloves. He's like, "Hey man, yeah, what's the problem? Oh, you have
Yeah.
the flu? Here, you take these
I think
pills."
it's meant to do it now.
But-
Another thing is that before COVID, maybe they were not that strict about it, but I think they're meant to do it regardless. No, I don't know. It seems weird.
Probably.
You don't have
Not
to.
here. Not here.
Infectious disease.
Yeah, they're meant to wash their hands as well, I don't think they've been doing that too
Spot it
much.
down.
It's the birthday song that changed everything.
Yeah.
As soon as they
You
told
know,
them how to
I never washed my hands until
Oh,
COVID.
Michael,
you
you got quite a classy beverage over there. What are we drinking?
Oh no, it's just a fancy glass. Sammy
Oh, I
glass.
thought it was some whiskey.
But we're drinking
Skull.
Skull.
We're drinking
That nice,
Águila, my
that
boys.
nice cheap stuff.
We're drinking
Wow.
Alhambra.
Yeah, no, you
Three
guys are a
three
couple
different
levels ahead
boys
of me.
with three different cultured beers.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can't guess where we live based off the beers that we're drinking, God save you.
It could be
Yeah.
anywhere, man.
Could be anywhere.
Maybe we took the care to buy extremely rare imported beer just to, just to
just-
throw everyone off.
That's the
It's
idea.
like,
We
yeah,
live in
no,
like
I live in South
Madagascar.
Africa.
Yeah, I live in Burkina Faso, definitely. You know, we put the roam
All
in.
right, but yeah, back to the topic of conversation.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
sorry.
would say there is one scene that I want to talk about that was particularly impressive to me in the composition of the scene and the delivery, everything about it. You know, I got to really geek out on this scene, and that is the scene where they're deciding whether to continue taking Ellie or not. And Joel and Tess are kind of sitting apart, and they got Ellie in this halo of light. I don't know if you could tell. There was
Yeah.
for me, the light work in the scene was impeccable because you had Ellie sitting in the light, right, in the sectioned off area in the light, and Joel sitting completely in the dark. And as Tess begins to realize just how important Ellie might be, just how much hope she might afford to the next generation, everything, she kind of starts to step between the dark and the light. And I thought it was really, you know, poetic and everything, that she kind of serves as the bridge to finally try to beckon Joel over into the light, because she's metaphorically, Tess is the first thing that that Joel has begun to become, you know, more emotionally invested in since what happened to his daughter. You would imagine him to be a pretty cold guy, to be pretty rejecting of any sort of emotional comfort. But with Tess, he's become kind of close, you know?
Yeah, he's opening up at
And
least. It shows. He's
with
relaxed.
Tess going away, it's fitting that she becomes the bridge to Joel, you know, opening his heart to the world and to caring about people and to actually wanting to do something with his life instead of just drinking, surviving, and selling guns or whatever. I thought it was
Yeah,
a
I'd like
great
to
scene,
add
man.
to what you said about with the skylight shining down on Ellie. I'd like to add to that just by pointing out that she was also on like the only patch of natural green, like greenery, like plants and flowers that you see in basically the whole series. Because you see all of this like overhang and the fallen buildings. You see, you know, like the fungus on the ground and, you know, that type of stuff. But when she wakes up from sleeping on that patch of
Of
greenery
grass,
with
yeah.
with the light shining down, it kind of gives the hint. So it's like a motif that she's the only salvation in a world that's so
Yeah, the only like thing
catastrophic and
that's
so full of
sprouting, no?
horrible
And
things. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. It's like
The only thing
she's
that's
the hope,
growing.
she's the salvation. Hmm.
that's
Speaking
actually
of
quite
growing,
interesting.
I loved all of the outdoors, the whole eco-brutalist vibe that they were giving with the entire city overgrown and the special effects that they like how they depicted the city in itself. I thought was beautiful. They did a
Yeah.
great job with
Do we
that.
know what year it's supposed to take place in?
2023.
Yeah.
2023.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Just
So
just
it's about
another
to
example of
happen.
how nature just another example of how nature thrives in our absence, eh? You know?
Yeah, but what
City
I'm trying
goes
to
to
figure out
ruin, but the
now is
trees
would it
grow.
really take 20 years? So they say, you know, it's 20 years from when Sarah dies to when, you know, they're taking Ellie to the next location.
Yeah.
Is 20 years really enough for greenery to just start sprouting out of buildings? Like
Yeah, yeah.
not
I
just
think
like at the base of buildings, like
I reckon it
on the
is.
top
I reckon it
and
is
stuff.
because I think in three,
Yeah?
4 years you must have like moss
20
and like
years is a
little
long time,
plants
man.
sprouting out of
Not
anywhere.
really.
Like give it
I
10 or
mean, in the grand scheme of things.
No, yeah, of course, not at all. But
What
like that's the thing. Like
you know about the rubber routes? You remember that movie we were gonna watch, Pablo, about Fitzcarraldo? That
yeah.
was that was a guy that created a route over in the Amazon jungle to be able to carry rubber across. It was a very important commercial route. After a
Yeah.
while, like with the Panama Canal and everything, they stopped using it because it was redundant. It grew back, that route that they created. I mean, given its pure jungle,
Yeah.
within just a couple of years, like I think it was 3-4 years, you could no longer find that trail from how overgrown it was. And that's in the jungle. Like obviously Boston isn't a jungle, but it still has some form of greenery, you know? They keep it in
Yeah.
Yeah,
check,
but that's the
especially
thing. Like
mold and stuff.
in 3 to 5 years of literally like untouched nature, like no human interaction and just post-apocalyptic, I think it would grow out so much, let alone like 20 years. That's a lot of time in plant world when there's like no humans chopping down
Hmm.
the trees or whatever. Like just look at your garden. If you leave your
Yes.
garden for 3 months, it looks horrible.
All right,
That's
that's fair
true.
enough. But I also do have another question in terms
Hmm.
of the what's it called? Like just greenery. So you know
Hmm.
how right before they
I'm
go
not
into the
no
building,
botanist, by the way. Just like, just informing.
yeah. But you know how Joel starts poking
None of
like the
us are.
dried out fungus on the ground, and he's like, "Oh yeah, no, it's dead."
Hmm.
You know,
It isn't in the
because
end
there's
now.
this. They introduced the idea that everything is interconnected. So, like the
Which
whole
is terrifying.
it is
Yeah.
terrifying, but I don't know if it's an inconsistency. I just didn't understand it properly. So when he pokes that and he's like, "Oh, it's dead." Why is it dead? I thought the whole thing is supposed to be interconnected in terms of like
But he
certain
said it was
hives.
dry, no? I think
Yeah,
I think a dried
but is
mushroom
that
is not alive, I
It's
guess.
kind of like how you can lose. It's kind of like nerve endings. So you can lose a
Hmm.
feeling of in a hand if your nerve endings just get damaged. You know what I mean? So I reckon in the
Hmm.
whole like nervous system that is the fungi, you lose parts of it, and then the nervous system isn't aware of these parts because the nerve endings have been fucked. So if the
Yeah.
host of this fungi gets killed, it's as if a nerve ending was severed. That's at
Hmm.
least
all
what
right?
made sense to me.
No, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah.
Those things are
Um,
disgusting. They do a great
those
job of
they're
making them
pretty
I mean,
repulsive.
disgusting. They
the
do
clickers were
really well.
amazing.
Look like they look like that moldy cheese you leave in the fridge
God.
and you just forget about it. You open it
Come
one
back
day,
5 years
it
later,
looks
and it's like, oh
alive.
yeah.
Ugh, un homunculo.
But yeah,
Put
they
it on some
Pablo, they
toast.
killed the clickers. They killed the clickers because we were talking last week. If they're gonna stay true to just everything that made the video game what it was
Hmm.
and what made it so unique, and one of the things was the clickers. You
Hmm.
know, for those of you people who are listening and have no idea what the clickers are, or didn't play the game, or just want a better understanding, is basically one of the infected beings that has been taken over completely by the
More
host, by the
developed.
fungus, and it
Hmm.
covers its eyes, so it's not able to see. So what it does is that it starts clicking, kind of like an echolocation
Hmm.
type thing.
Like
Hmm.
So
bats.
it's able to exactly, yeah. So it's able to determine where you are based off the sounds that you're making, which is why they need to stay so quiet.
Hmm.
I gotta say, the way they created the suspense and the fear leading up of especially the interaction between Joel and Tess, like, no, surely like maybe they've run out or something. The fact to
Hmm.
see them so afraid, and you as a person who's played the game knows what they're talking about. So
Mm-hmm.
they create so much suspense and fear leading up to this first encounter that you're almost at the edge of your seat, almost waiting to hear the click, to hear that first
Yeah.
click. And the first time they hear it is absolutely spine chilling. They do such a good job of making those things as terrifying as they are.
Hmm.
Yeah,
I really
something which
like
I
that
also thought
scene.
was something I thought was interesting was at the end of the episode when Tess is standing there flicking the lighter,
Hmm.
trying to like light everything on fire, but it's not
Hmm.
lighting. And all of the zombies like run straight past her. And at first I was like, what the hell, man? She's like standing right there. Like, how
Hmm.
did they not see her? Like, if they're so
Hmm.
intelligent and they know the building and which direction. Then I started thinking, like, okay, she's already partially infected. Maybe they don't see her as a threat because they
Of
can
that.
already detect that she's being
Hmm.
taken over,
Yeah, that's
which
what
is
I
why
thought.
then that one zombie. Are we calling them zombies? Because they're like not
Yeah,
really
The
infected
zombies.
infected.
zombie.
You can call them
The
infected, I
infected.
guess.
Hmm.
Yeah, it feels wrong calling them zombies at this point because
Because they're not zombies.
they're
Doesn't.
not like
Very different to
cannibals or
zombies.
yeah. So
Even that
the
scene where
infected
they all
walks
move
over.
together, that to me sets them apart from zombies. Like when you
Yeah.
finally that scene where you get that visual confirmation that they are like one organism, that's
Hmm.
One
crazy.
unit.
All those rippling bodies, like doing
Hmm.
it's like a bunch of girls at a Billie
So
Eilish
grim.
concert. It's the same kind of
Oh,
terrifying experience. And
yeah.
Yeah.
Feels also
I think they
like
did
an
a great
Eminem
job.
concert when he's like, "Put your hands
This
up."
screech
Everyone
also
puts
like
their
quite
hands up and
similar
down.
to the screeching is also quite similar to how I would imagine like the crowd of one of those concerts, but no
The
shit.
Yeah.
Like I'm not
dehydrated
throwing shit to
clicks.
anyone because I actually yeah the
Oh, okay.
dehydrated
Wait, Ez.
clicks.
Yeah. When you cut off, I was asking Pablo. At the end of the episode, I don't know if it was just that I didn't understand it, whatever. But basically, you know how when Joel and Ellie have already left the building and Tess is there with the lighter, just like kind of trying to spark it, um,
Yeah.
she doesn't move, and like all of the zombies run straight past her. And at first I was like, what the hell, man? Like she's standing right there. Like, how did you not see the one person in the room? And
Yeah.
then that the other infected just starts slowly walking to her, and she's still not moving. And I'm like, do something. Like you don't need to kill yourself. Like hide, run, do whatever. Um, do you think it
That
was
seems
that she
like
was like
such a
petrified, or
positive
the
comment.
organism that's infected her literally won't let her prevent, like it's preventing her from moving? Because since it's got a hive mind type deal, it's like she's infected enough to the
Hmm.
point where she can't run away.
To
That's
that
a
I added,
curious
like it
theory.
was so weird. I was to that I added I was a bit weird how it almost looked like she was leaning in for a kiss with the like the infected guy before she like completely lit up
That made
the
me so
lighter.
uncomfortable.
Yeah, it was so weird. It don't like,
Yeah,
but
that
to me
was
it like
spores
she
going in
was
your
down
mouth.
bad.
That little hairy jellyfish trickling into your mouth.
Mm.
That can't be very
Yeah,
pleasant. I think she might have
I
just
don't I
been
don't know if I
frozen in
like
fear.
Yeah, I also
I
had that
like that
possibility.
that sorry Pablo. I don't know if
No,
I like that you can see the thing move. I feel like it shouldn't be something you can see like moving in real time. It's kind of like a like if you took an earthworm out of the ground and you put it on the table and it's like wiggling around, fine. But it's also like it's a plant. What plant do you know, or what fungus or whatever do you know that can
no,
like
no,
literally
no.
move and crawl around? That's something I'm not too
Well, I
huge
mean,
on,
you get some
honestly.
fungus that is like parasitic. We they talked about it on the first episode. No, those ones that take over ants and stuff like that. Those
Yeah,
sort
but
of
it's the
move,
ant
I
Yeah, the
that's
guess.
moving.
cordyceps.
Hmm.
But it's the ant that's
The
moving,
cordyceps.
and it's being moved by the cordyceps. But
Well, I
the
mean, it was similar in this case. I don't think it was the tongue moving it. It was definitely like sprouting out of the tongue, but
mm-hmm,
I don't know.
I don't
It
know.
was a bit weird. Yeah, that was a bit disturbing.
Maybe she was just curious. You know, she's about to die. She's like, you know what? Maybe he's real nice. Looks
You
out
get
for
a
people.
little, no.
She's
Is it
having
like
some
truffle oil?
final moments of realizing your mortality induced delusion, you know, and she's probably losing her
oh,
mind at that point, to be fair. 'Cause
It was
yeah,
quite similar to
something
the
pretty
else I
sure
was
she's
ending.
gonna
thinking
die.
about. I
I
mean,
mean, pretty sure
something
she's
else I was
dead.
thinking about while you were gone, as was um, we started this episode by talking about how they're still staying true to the video game, and you know, like a lot of the scenes are still the same. But I just wanted to point out a couple of them. Like we said, Elise can't swim. The use of the planks to cross the buildings, lifting
Yep.
Tess up to see behind the rubble,
Yep.
the glass case in the museum, like all of that. Like for the people who haven't played the game, they can't appreciate it, but a lot of it's shot in the exact same way still. A lot of like I didn't pick it up at first, but the stuffed giraffe that they show for like a split second, like leaning against a car. I don't know why, but I feel like that was also in the game.
I think that's a bit of a spoiler. That might be a spoiler.
The
Well,
Is
elephant
it?
or the giraffe?
yeah, no, the giraffes and like the whole the little like nod to it. I think it's just a nod to the video game. That's something that happens somewhat like later.
Huh, I have no idea. I mean, it's been
With
years
the
since I
I'll
played the
giraffe?
tell you off
game.
camera. I'll tell you off camera so we don't spoil it.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Please.
Okay. Uh, well,
well,
yeah.
I
I
think
also
yeah,
I
we're
was gonna
also hitting
say
the
that
mark.
there was one difference that I thought was interesting. First of all, I thought it was interesting that they changed Tess's sacrifice. I guess in a production sense, it made more sense for her to sacrifice herself to a bunch of CGI than, you know, have a full gunfight. I also think it was quite poetic. And I do like that they gave us more of a closer look on her final moments, whereas in the game, you're just kind of seeing it from far away, which is quite cool. Like you're just playing and you're running by, and then you see in the background that she gets killed, but you don't really see what she's thinking, which I thought was quite petty. You know, like she's a pretty main character. You're just seeing her die off camera. And I like how in the game they give you a bit more, insight to her heroic sacrifice. There is one line that they changed from Tess, which is when Tess is trying to convince Joel of the of take this burden onto yourself. She says, "Surely there's enough here for you to feel some sort of moral obligation." That's what she says in the game, which I think is a good line, because it shows that Joel is really reluctant to be a part
To
of
take on
any sort of
responsibility.
emotional connection. But it's like, come on, we live together, like we've been together for a while. Surely this is enough to make you feel obligated to help
You
me
should
out.
feel
I like how she
something,
paints it as it being something selfish, that she wants Joel to go ahead with this. Whereas really, I think it's also that she wants Joel to have something going on, after she dies, and to have some kind of mission, and to not just
Well, I
be
think it's not so
grim in
much
a
to have
corner and
something
drink.
going on.
Hmm.
I don't think it's so much that like to have something going on when she dies, because she obviously doesn't know she's going to die before she gets bitten, because she gets bitten in the museum, I'm assuming. But she still wants Ellie to be taken to this mysterious location even before they've left the QZ. I will say I
That's a
don't
fair
think they
point.
should have killed
It's
her
her
off just
redeeming.
yet. I don't think they should have killed her off just yet, and I also think that her pushing Joel to take Ellie is kind of like a hint at, hey, you've already lost one daughter, one kid. At least try and save this one, not for yourself and not for the car battery, which is a pretty stupid transaction in the end of the day. A human being for a car battery.
No, but I think it's a
But
good point. I think if you're hating
It shows the
yourself
kind of lives
over
they
like
lead.
yeah,
yeah,
you're hating yourself over thinking that you could have done something more. Now you actually get a chance to do something. Don't neglect on it. Like don't let this helpless child just die. Like let
yeah, it's
alone
like
the fact that she's
you
Ellie and
couldn't
she has
save
like
Sarah, but
this
you can save
potential to
Ellie.
be something else. Yeah, exactly. Like regardless of how important Ellie is, I think it's just a moral, not a dilemma. It's something that he should
I
do
think it
in order to
makes
be like
sense.
coherent.
It makes sense in the plot for her to die, because she's Joel's kind of last crutch, because Joel doesn't want to care for anyone again, right? Because he's just gonna get hurt. Someone's gonna die, and he's not gonna be able to protect them. So the reason Tess is kind of like a crutch in this sense is because Tess is independent and she's strong. She can defend herself. So if you have to care for someone with the least chance of getting hurt, you at least like half care for someone that is an adult and can defend themselves. And this is she's his last crutch, stopping him from having to full on defend someone and having to full on
Mm-hmm.
have the responsibility of someone's life in his hands, which is the last thing he wanted after what
The
happened to his daughter.
responsibility.
So with her dying, all that's left is, look, I know you didn't want this, but you got to take care of this girl. And you didn't want the responsibility of another little girl. I know you didn't want another death on your hands, but it's time for you to man up and take some more responsibility, and actually try to do something good instead of be grim and drink,
Yeah, definitely.
which is a
As I
lesson
take
for
a
all
sip
of
of
us.
beer.
Yeah, it is. It really is. Well, I think that about
But
wraps
one
it up
final
because- Tell me.
one final
I'll let
comment
you.
I wanted to
You're the
make
host.
before we finish this episode, that I thought would be criminal if we didn't mention it, was that the audio design of this episode was incredible.
yeah.
I don't usually put my hats off to the audio people, because it's a job that gets kind of looked over a lot in film. But the audio design was 10 out of 10. Both the indoor, the outdoor sounds, the infected, how everything sounded echoed and hollow and rank inside. It just added to the immersion of the episode and made it more beautiful, and they've done a great job. So you guys with the sound booms and the sound editing and all that stuff, amazing job.
Top notch.
A plus.
Can I throw in a hot take before we end? Like, it's gonna be a
Yeah,
very
of
hot
course.
take.
We love hot takes.
Super
us a
hot
good
take,
clip
and I'm
that
like
makes
upset
us
that
go
I'm saying
viral.
it, because I personally love the show. I love the direction it's going, and I'm like really interested in seeing how it progresses.
I love it, but
But I don't know if we all love it because we have some connection to the game. I'm interested in seeing what someone who has never heard or played the game thinks of
I've heard good
strictly
reviews by people who
the
haven't
two
watched the
episodes that
game.
have come out. The first episode was obviously great. Like, it was a movie. It could have ended there, and people would have been like, okay, yeah, it's a good movie, and like, let's see the second one now. But this is going to be a 9-episode series. The whole zombie infected deal has been done for generations. You've got World War Z, The Walking Dead, all these video games, Dead by Dawn, blah blah blah. Is it going to hold up to the hype that it's raised in these first 2 episodes?
Well, to be honest, you always
For
see.
someone
I think
who
we should
hasn't
leave it on
played the
that
game
note.
strictly.
I think
No,
that's no. I think we should
Okay,
leave that
sure.
hanging.
I'll
I think we
think
should leave
about
that
it.
hanging. Let the people decide.
Mm.
That's a good hot take. I appreciate that hot take. You love to leave it on a
Yeah.
cliffhanger, and that's exactly what we're doing here. So thank you, everybody.
Okay.
And next week,
Yeah,
new
we'll
episode,
see you next week
you get to
with
see our
another hot
faces
take.
again.
Thank you for watching.